Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the Underworld. The Star Wars Underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The Underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the Underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun and it's all-round good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
Woo! I like
I
this!
can't believe you came all this way to see me.
Why am I not in the intro? I gotta come up with a snappy line.
Well, hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the Star Wars Underworld podcast, your weekly source for all the latest breaking Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion. And this week, we will be dissecting, reviewing, and breaking down the first half of the animated limited series, Tales of the Underworld. That's right, we'll be talking about the Asajj Ventress trilogy of episodes, and we'll be answering some of your questions in the return of our beloved segment, Ask the SWU. I think there's about 6 weeks worth of questions that we will make our way through. Starting with this one, what are your guys' big predictions for season 2 of Andor? We're a little bit off. Missed that one. I know we've got some great questions that we will get to. We're going to have a great show. It's going to be a great time. First, though, introductions are in order in case you're new to the show or you've forgotten who we are. I am Dominic Jones. With me, as always, reporting live from 2005 on the set of Revenge of the Sith. It's the founder of the Star Wars Underworld, Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
So yeah, hi guys. Really good to have be doing a webisode or whatever they call these things. And over there, you wouldn't believe me if I told you, but George Lucas is right there, and they're doing their thing over there. And yeah, I can't turn the cram around because they kill me. But here we go.
Ben, for those of you that aren't listening and don't understand what the heck that bit just was, Ben is in a room that is literally the color of the green screen that they would have used on the prequels and modern movies. And it does feel right that on StarWars.com, Pablo Hidalgo just republished all of his blogs from the set of Revenge of the Sith. And there's a handful of pictures included. And honestly, Ben, your little picture here, your little window on our screen, wouldn't feel out of place. Just a guy in front of a green wall doing his best to make a Star Wars. I love it. Also with us from the Raeside, it's Hannah Raeside.
G'day there. Great to be back for another week. I think this is the first time I've done 2 weeks in a row in many months now. So yeah, I'm excited to chat everything and finally answer some long-awaited questions, I think. So yeah, it's going to be a good day.
It'll be a good day. So we're going to talk, like we said, about the Ventress portion of Tales of the Underworld. If you look at the YouTube thumbnail, like for those of you that are listening live, you might think, hey, this looks like they are going to talk about all 3 or all 6 episodes. Hannah, why don't you explain to everybody why we're not doing that?
So Ben told us just seconds before the show that Ben didn't watch the episodes because it totally wasn't me.
This is all my fault. I see how it is.
No, I'm a bit of a slowpoke with these Tales of the Underworld. Still awaiting my watching and absorbing of the Cad Bane arc. Surprisingly, haven't been spoiled. I think because Andor was still happening while this came out, so I think everyone was distracted, maybe including myself as well. So I'm yet to see those episodes. So yes.
This is why I bring this up, not just to shame you, Hannah. But
thanks, buddy. Thanks, champ. Wow.
These episodes, they came out May 4th. Great, makes sense. Sure, Star Wars. But they also came out in the middle of Andor. And this happened previously with Tales of the Jedi as well, where it dropped in the middle of Andor season 1, if you remember. And even at the time, it felt like, wow, there's so much happening at the same time. And that was when we were getting 1 episode of Andor a week. We were getting 3 episodes of Andor a week. We were getting a movie every movie's worth of content every week from Andor. And in there, they also dropped Tales of the Underworld, which on the one hand is like, great. Give it all to me. I love it. I want as much Star Wars as possible. But on the other hand, when is too much too much? Like, there's basically 2 movies worth of content here in Andor and Tales of the Underworld, both dropped in the same week. How are you supposed to appreciate both of them? I get that they wanted to do something for May the 4th. I get that. And I do appreciate that, because there were a lot of years, Ben, I think you will remember this as well, when we would come on the show going, oh, they're going to do something for May 4th. And then the thing they would do for May 4th would be like, get 15% off old video games. And we'd be like, huh?
Yay!
We thought it was going to be the cast of episode 7. And so I appreciate that. But when you've got another show on the air, and especially when it's a show like Andor, when you're releasing it in this kind of unique way, save this for like the Tales of the Underworld should come out this week or next week.
Yeah, exactly.
At some point when
because it's not just that it's a Star Wars live action TV show. It's fact that it's arguably the greatest Star Wars live action TV show, if not one of the greatest live action TV shows ever made, happening at the same time. And it's just like everyone just goes like, oh, they watch Tales of the Underworld and go, that was great, back to Andor. Like, 'cause that's what we're talking about now.
Yeah, it didn't get its due. And we've talked about this in the past, that sometimes the amount of stuff that we get now, it doesn't necessarily stay with you in the same way that the old stuff did, because there used to be so much time between the old stuff and the new stuff. And obviously the media landscape has changed. How we consume media has changed. What audiences' attention spans have changed. So you have to adapt to a certain amount to that. But dropping essentially 9 episodes of Star Wars within, a 5-day period, between the Tuesday and what was May 4th this year? Was it a Friday, Sunday, something like that? Like dropping
Sunday,
it.
Yeah, it was
yeah.
Sunday.
So dropping it within 5 days of each other, really, and then like 2 days later, you have another 3 episodes of Andor. Like that is too much. I think we have found the line. That is too much. Next time you find yourself in this situation, which is unlikely to happen again. But let's space these things out. Let's give ourselves some breathing room. I don't know. Anna, what do you think? Do you agree, or do you want?
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Opinion?
Yeah, no, I usually do, but no, in this case, I do definitely agree. I think, I don't know the reasoning, but put Tales on. In a couple months' time, we'll be really settled after the Andor finished, and we would want some little just short stories, something Star Wars that'll be super fun. A couple of weeks of promo for it when there's a lull. I think that would have really benefited these short stories we're getting. So, yeah, I agree. It's weird to put them overlapping each other.
Yeah, it was an odd choice, even if it was understandable. All right, we'll get into the adventure story in just a second here. But first, we want to remind you, as always, punch the subscribe button, Chewy. That way you can... What happens when you subscribe? You never miss an episode. That's what happens when you subscribe. You never miss an episode. Subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, however you listen, and you will get all of our episodes as soon as they drop. And if you're listening or watching on a platform that allows you to leave a review, please leave a review. We really appreciate that. That helps us out. Keep the conversation going between shows. Join the Discord. Get in on all the fun things that Ben and Joel have going on there. And follow us on social media at the SWU for all the latest breaking Star Wars news as it happens throughout the week, plus other fun things like countdowns, where you can learn things like The Mandalorian and Grogu is exactly 1 year away. 365 days from now, we will be back in the theater watching Star Wars.
And sometimes you don't find out about those things because I didn't look at my countdown, and I'm like, crap, that date flew by, and I didn't look, and I didn't post a countdown. I had that 365 day one. I was waiting for 2 weeks for that to post that one. So that one was on my radar.
To quote Luke Skywalker, but that's a whole nother year. We'll get by. And
like that.
Yeah. part of the way it will go by like that is because you'll be checking out all the great content on the Star Wars Underworld Network, including the Raeside, Ion Cannon, Tractor Beam, Tales from Beyond the Galaxy, and maybe we'll add some more someday. Who knows? One of these days, perhaps. Check it all out. All right, let's get into things. We are going to talk about Tales of the Underworld. The episodes are called A Way Forward, Friends, and One Warrior to Another. We'll begin how we always do. Go around the table, give some initial impressions. And Ben, I'm going to give you a break from it this week and throw it to Hannah first to get her thoughts on the adventurous arc from Tales of the Underworld.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, this arc, all timings aside, being able to actually watch it was really, really enjoyable. The first episode was shown at Celebration in the animation panel, which a lot of people were in, as I was. Were you in there, Tom? I can't even remember.
I was.
Yeah.
I was.
Yeah, we just didn't sit together. Yeah.
No. We were told to keep our distance.
Yeah, we hated each other at that point. And so we did get to see the first episode. So obviously I knew what was coming. But my reaction to that first episode at Celebration, I don't know about you, Dom, but I was just pure shock. And it was awesome seeing the first scene, seeing this kind of story play out with this very mysterious, because we barely ever see him or talk about him, but Quinlan Vos in Clone Wars style again, and also Kenobi in Clone Wars style was just awesome. That was so cool. And then clicking that, oh my God, we're on Dathomir, we're playing out the storyline that happens in, what's it called? Dark Disciple, seeing that play out was just unreal. That was so cool to see with like a auditorium of Star Wars fans. And then at home watching the two following episodes. It's so hard with this show because all I really have for it are compliments, but I'm just left being like, why isn't this a longer story? Why isn't this explored more? I thought it was really cool what it presented with us. This another really kind of character within Star Wars that's really in the gray. She was like a Sith assassin, and now she's in this moral kind of just quandary of life, and where should she go? What should she do? And I think that was contrasted really well with Lyko. Was that his name? Lyko?
Yes.
Yeah, Lyko. That was contrasted so well, and I loved that character. I thought he was just super cute little dude, just wanting to be the best Jedi he can. So this whole thing was really, really cool. Really, really enjoyed it. But we'll get into specifics in a moment.
Yeah, that first scene, which is the sort of epilogue to Dark Disciple, the pop in the celebration stage when people realized what we were seeing.
Oh wow!
Like you would have thought, it was huge. Everybody was so excited there.
Because it took like 4 seconds, I would say.
Yeah.
Maybe like 3.5 seconds. Because it's just like, okay, where are we? And you're absorbing visually. And then it was, wasn't it? It was just this like, go! Just this slight delayed realization of what we're doing here.
Yeah, it was terrific. And this was something I'd wondered about, right? Like, how are they going to handle this after they brought back Ventress for Bad Batch? They said on StarWars.com, yes, we're going to honor Dark Disciple, but how do you actually do that? How do you actually do that without adapting the whole damn book? Well, this is a version of it, and I thought it worked fairly well. We can get more into it in a second, but Ben, we want to get your overall thoughts on the Ventress episodes of Tales of the Underworld first.
Yeah, no, I obviously didn't go to Star Wars Celebration, but I also had a very unique experience watching these first episodes.
Okay.
Because I watched the first 2 episodes in Fortnite.
Oh,
because you could do that. And
this weird thing,
it happened. And look, I have Fortnite, and I play it almost every day. So I'm like, why not? They released it 2 days early. I would be stupid not to try and watch these episodes. So I did watch. Yes, go ahead.
How did that work?
Okay, so how it works is, and this actually plays into the fact that I had to rewatch them later to actually get the full effect. Because basically, in Fortnite, you load into a match, and there's other players, people wandering around, whatever else. But in this case, it was you loaded into what was kind of like a city, which kind of resembled the city in the first episode of Tales of the Underworld. I think it might actually still be on there. And also, Fortnite is back on the iOS. So if you just want to for fun, just pull up Fortnite and play and watch Tales of the Underworld in Fortnite, I think you can still do that right now. But basically, you load into the city, you go into this little theater thing, and there's people just running around, and there's a balcony up top where I think. So I was just kind of standing on the floor, and there's people, and the whole time there is, I believe, stormtroopers coming into the room and just blasting everyone as they come in. So you're fighting them off. So there's just noise of blasters going off and people fighting on the ground right in front of these giant screens where Tales of the Underworld is playing. And I was just like, this is, because I just wanted to experience it. I'd never done anything like this before. I'm like, what is this? And I think so. I get to the Dark Disciple scene. Of course, I'm surprised as anyone seeing it, but I'm like, I can't hear what they're saying because people are fighting stormtroopers all around me. I can't understand what they're saying.
Ben, I hearing you describe this.
This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous.
I'm having like a Principal Skinner moment here of like, am I out of touch? No, it's the children who are wrong. And I'm just gonna say, it's the children who are. What the hell is this? What are you talking about?
I look,
it's
and
brain rot
here's
way
the thing.
to watch
and
Star Wars.
Props to,
So
and I actually was warned about this, that you can make your own private match. You don't have to go in there and make a public thing. You can go in there in private and do it all yourself. I think even Sal Perales from Rogue Rebels was talking about how you can just don't go into the public match. But I did that anyway because I'm stupid. But you can also go into the balcony, which is above, and the sound is kind of down, but it's not off completely. So I did. I watched the whole episode of things. I enjoyed them. And you can also pop it into full screen so you don't have the thing. But the sound doesn't go away. The sound is always there. People fighting the stormtroopers, blasters going off in the background, explosions are happening simultaneously in the theater.
I need to find the person who came up with this and ask them why.
I saw Tales of the Underworld 2 days before most of you. All right, so
okay, but you didn't hear what they were saying. Okay, all right. What did you think of the episodes, though?
Okay,
never mind.
That was. Yeah, I know. I'm getting sidetracked here. Long story short, I liked them. I think I especially liked these Ventress episodes. I think I liked them the best out of the bunch. Not to poo-poo Cad Bane episodes. I thought those were good too, and I'll get into my thoughts on those maybe next week. But I think these episodes. I think my only criticism of them is I wish they had been more. I don't want to use. I want to use this word correctly. Consequential. In regards to, I wish they had gone further with things. I think opening with the Dark Disciple scene was brilliant. I think they didn't have to do that, especially when you think about the fact that the people that didn't read Dark Disciple, which are, I should remind you, most people in the world, most people that are watching this have not read Dark Disciple. This is confusing. Oh, Ventress is dead. She's with Quinlan Voss. They're in love. They had this friendship. None of that is in any of the animated stuff or any of the live action stuff for that matter. So anyone coming into this is going to be kind of confused, going to have to be caught up on this. But they did it anyway. I think it's a great love letter to that book, and concreting it into canon. Which, as we've learned, not every book and comic is canon now.
Thank you, Tony Gilroy.
It just happens sometimes. Yeah. So that book is amazing, so I'm glad that they didn't overwrite anything. In fact, they entrenched it in the canon, doing it this way. But that's kind of where, I think the rest of it was kind of like, oh, we're just kind of on a fun romp adventure, which was fine. I liked the kid. I liked, Ventress was great. I liked the inclusion of Heisinger and Latz, like all that. The middle episode with the big, things, probably one of my favorite episodes. I think. And getting more about Quinlan Voss, he's the one that started the path. That's cool. That's really cool things. But going further, where are we going with this? And I think I echo a lot of what people are saying online, which is like, this felt like the backdoor pilot for another show.
Yeah.
And that's my big question. Maybe we'll get into it a little bit further as we get into the discussion, but like, that's my question is like, where is this going? What are we doing here? Because I do like this. I just kind of wanted more of it. I feel like it could have moved a little faster to give us a bit more, of the chunk of the story versus kind of like this kind of fun romp.
Yeah. So let's get into the Dark Disciple of it all first, and then we'll get more into it. I'll just add quickly. I love the Ventress episodes. I think they're my favorite trilogy of all of the Tales trilogies. Like if we look at the 9 or the 6 that we've gotten so far, I think it's my favorite. Not to disparage the other ones, just that I thought this one was that good. But let's get into the Dark Disciple of it all. As you rightly pointed out, Ben, there are more people in the world that have not read Dark Disciple than have read Dark Disciple. And this is something that you run the risk of when you do this screen to paper to screen thing that they're doing here. A lot of times I've wondered about this. I've worried about this when people say, oh, you should bring in this character, you should bring in that character. I'm going to say for Tales of the Underworld, I don't care. I don't care. Go, if you want to, if you don't understand, go read the book, go read the Wikipedia page, find a YouTube explainer. I'm sure Star Wars Explained has one. I'm sure Star Raptor has one. I'm sure you can find them all over the place and get that. For Tales of the Underworld, for like these like little mini series, specialty spin-offs of the Clone Wars, nah, just do it. This is the place to be as up your own butt as you want to be when it comes to the canon. Just be like, you know what? This is all connected. So screw it. If you haven't read Dark Disciple, you're starting behind the 8 ball, but you can catch up. You can catch up without too much effort. So, if this was for Andor, if this was for Mandalorian, hell, if this was for Maul Shadow Lord, I might feel a little bit different. For this, screw it. Let it be. Let people go figure it out for themselves. That's my feeling. I don't know. Hannah, have you read Dark Disciple? What do you think on this?
Yeah, I only read it because of sort of that situation when Ventress came back up in Bad Batch. And it was like, oh, in a book somewhere, she's like, still has this life. Okay, how did she come back? And everyone's like, oh, this we're talking about Dark Disciple around her return. And so that's when I was like, oh, great. Something to dive deeper into, something, a piece of media that can educate me on the lore more. Fun. What a good time. And so I had a great time reading Dark Disciple. But I totally agree. I think Tales especially is that sort of Star Wars media that's for Star Wars fans. Like Disney are very sort of open with, the Mando movie. It's we want casual, Jon Favreau at Celebration was saying we want any fan that hasn't been a fan of Star Wars to come and enjoy this movie. And I think there was also an element of Andor with that, not having to know other pieces of lore to really appreciate Andor. But I think, yeah, what you're saying is like Tales of the Underworld, this Tale series that we have are for Star Wars fans that know the context. We can pick up the timing of like, okay, this is, before the Empire, this is all after, in here, in this time period. We know, if we don't know the full character story, we at least know the characters as well. And so it's meant to be there to deepen your understanding of the lore of some sort of character. So yeah, I don't take that whole, I don't know what happened here. It's like, well, then read it. Then why are you why do you want everything on a silver plate? So and I think it's good.
Yeah, and really like that scene, it's not really necessary for the rest of the story. Like it's there a little bit when it comes to, she's a little hesitant to go see Quinlan Voss. It creates this reason why they can't be together. But once that scene is over, if you're just following along with the story of Ventress and Lyko, if you've seen Clone Wars, you're pretty good. You're pretty much good. And this show again is a spin-off continuation, something like it's a Clone Wars extension more than anything else. So I if you get through that first scene and go, what the hell was that? And then keep going from there, you should be fine. I don't know, Ben. Ben, what do you think? How do you feel on the Dark Disciple question?
Yeah, I completely missed your question. Can you repeat it?
No. What do you think about them essentially just saying, here's a scene from Dark Disciple. If you haven't read the book, too bad. Like,
I mean, I feel like a lot of this stuff is stuff that people will just have to look up. And I think my whole thing that I've come back to, we've talked about this discussion in regards to so many different things about like stuff in the movies, stuff in the TV shows, things. As Star Wars the audience has only gotten bigger in the last few years. And that has led to people coming in that aren't into the whole minutia of the stuff that people both behind the scenes and us that are doing podcasts know about. And, when you're doing stuff that's referencing stuff, and we had a little mall discussion with Solo, things like, should they have done that? Should they not have done that? Should they explained it? Is it okay? Is it going to confuse people? And yes, I've heard plenty of stories that, yes, it very much confused a lot of people. But at the end of the day, I think Google exists, and I think your enjoyment of these movies, and I don't just mean Star Wars movies, I mean Marvel movies and anything that has a deep history, a deep lore, you're gonna get more out of it if you're kind of more easygoing about it. I think if you're coming into it going like, I need to understand every single reference and every single thing, and if I don't miss something or I don't understand something, I'm gonna have a bad time. And I know people that are like this. They do have bad times in the movies because they don't get all the references versus the people that are like, whatever. And I watched the Mission Impossible movies. I watched all of them. But the first one I watched was the 7th one. And then I watched the 8th one, and then I went back and watched the first one, and then I did them all in backwards. I didn't understand anything of what any of these people were talking about ever. Like they're referencing stuff, people getting married and all this kind of stuff. I don't know what they're saying. This person's wife shows up. I don't know who this person is, but I'm just along for the ride, and I had a good time. I wasn't hell bent to catch every reference. And I think people watching Tales of the Underworld will be like, okay, yeah, Ventress and Quinlan, they were a thing, and she died. Okay, all right, let's just go with it. And I think ultimately, that's what Lucasfilm is maybe hoping for. But I need to talk to more quote unquote normies about stuff like this because I am curious what people actually think. The normal people, not weirdos like us, normal people that watch this stuff just casually.
And without these sorts of references, how would people make all of those clickbait articles and videos of, look at all of the things that you missed in Tales of the Underworld? Won't somebody please think of the clickbait articles? Yeah. All right, let's dive into the storyline a little bit more here. We are introduced in the first episode to Lyko, the young Jedi who escaped Order 66 and winds up befriending Asajj Ventress. Ben, what did you think of this character Lyko and his little arc alongside our favorite separatist assassin / Night Sister / Jedi? Yeah. What do you think?
I mean, tiny bit disappointed it wasn't Petro from that young Jedi arc. Tiny bit disappointed, but I'll get past that. Another connection we didn't need. No, I like him a lot. I liked him as a character. I think he's a good foil for Ventress. I think someone who was kind of like won't take no for an answer, and ultimately is someone who needs her. But I think she needs him more than he needs her. And I think an interesting character. I want to know more about him. I think that's maybe another thing about this arc. Like I just kind of want to know what's his backstory. Where did he come from? All this kind of stuff. Obviously, we know where he came from, but like the specifics of what happened to him, and why is he here? And I think ultimately, where do they go from here? Why is he so attached to Ventress, especially when you have that back and forth between him not trusting her to learning to trust her to Latch kind of putting that fear of doubt, that little twinge of doubt into him, and then finding out her true identity. So I'm very curious where this relationship goes because it feels like something that's going to. Obviously, it feels like we're after Bad Batch, so wherever that goes, I don't know.
Does it?
Well, what the one indication that I saw that makes this after Bad Batch is that in Bad Batch we only ever see TK troopers, and in this show there is exclusively Imperial stormtroopers. Exclusively.
Okay. Good catch. Ben's Connection Corner. Hannah, what did you think of Lyko and this character that we were introduced to? You are muted, Hannah.
Whoa, I was dropping gems then as well. Yeah, first of all, I love his name, Lyko. Kind of on the nose, being like, we gotta like him. He's good. He's a good guy, Lyko. But yeah, like Ben said, I think it was just such a fun addition. Low key mad that he's not Petro, but that's fine. And yeah, I think it was a good kind of light-hearted character. I think that sort of character is sort of what we need in more consistent Star Wars media now, honestly. He had a very Luke Skywalker energy to him, where it's just this sort of, I want to help people in the world. I want to help people in the galaxy. He is force sensitive and is like, how can I use this ability to, my best ability, essentially. So yeah, I thought he was so fun, and I would genuinely, out of all the Tales series we have so far, everyone always says, "Oh, make this a show." I think this Ventress and Lyko storyline is the storyline out of everything to make that an animated show, a full-on, the Star Wars Padawan, and it's just about Ventress kind of going through her downfalls and what mistakes she's made and trying to stop Lyko from making the same mistakes. Because I think, super just innocent and genuine little character, little Padawan we got here. I would genuinely love to see more of his character. I hope we can.
Oh, 1,000%. And I agree. Like this really feels like, Ben used the phrase a backdoor pilot earlier. Like it really does feel like you could do a show with these two characters finding or going on their own adventure, eventually finding the path, eventually connecting with Quinlan Vos, eventually like doing all of those things. There's so much potential here. And I think these 3 episodes show just how varied those storylines could be. You can do Jedi storylines like they do in the first episode. You can do bounty hunter underworld episodes like they do in the second one. And you can do separatist storylines like they do in the third one. Like there is the potential there to cover all facets of the Star Wars universe with these two characters, because Ventress is somebody who can exist in all of those different worlds. I think Lyko too, like he's so pure, so sort of funny and funny in that way. Like you said, Hannah, he's kind of got a bit of that Luke Skywalker vibe to him. There's that great moment after Latsrazi and Heisinger have killed that big giant dude, and they're like, "Oh, it's too bad." And he goes, "Yes, any loss of life is tragic." And they're like, "No, dummy, it was he would have brought in more if we could have brought him in alive. Like it would have been worth more to us." It was so good.
So good.
Like there, sometimes with the characters in the Clone Wars, especially like Ahsoka when she was younger, they would take her into a setting that she wasn't used to, and they'd be like, "Try not to act like too much of a Jedi, like try not to stand out too much." And this kid like takes that up to 1,000. Like no wonder he was on the run. He might as well have been wearing a big sign that says, "I'm a Jedi, come find me." Like he doesn't know how to be undercover. But that made him really fun, and it made him sort of a great foil for Ventress, who is very good at adapting to different scenarios. And now she can't just adapt for herself. She's got to deal with this idiot who has the every possible right intention, but cannot get his act together so that he can, actually survive in this galaxy in this time. He wasn't raised to be on the run. He was raised to be a Jedi in the temple. And now he's got to learn a whole different set of skills. Now, as I mentioned in the second episode, we are reintroduced to a couple of characters we haven't seen in a very, 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 very long time. Ben, this sort of goes back to like early days of the Star Wars Underworld with Lazrazi and Heisinger and characters like that who are involved in like Boba Fett's gang in the late seasons of the Clone Wars. What did you think of seeing them again and how they factored into this new iteration of the story?
Yeah, I mean, I think I probably have a lot of nostalgia for these characters because they were very in my formative years, as they say. As a Star Wars fan, going way back to the episode Bounty, which was season 4 of Clone Wars. I think they may have shown up later in something, but a lot of lore around it. And then you have that very famous Star Wars 1313 concept art, which has Heisinger in it. Kind of implying that he was going to be maybe a main character in that game, and then R.I.P. Star Wars 1313 never happened, but Heisinger lives on, and great. I mean, Claire Grant's back to voice Lazrazi. I've always loved that character. She's just cool. She's just freaking cool. I also love the Basilisk, the dude with the 4 arms and the 4 knives. That
extra Jetster.
Yeah, he's in there for like a minute, but that character design is just amazing. But yeah, it's just great to bring them back. Obviously it's not just for like, oh, these cool characters. Like, no, they have a history with things. I think there's a reason Boba Fett's not in this, because they have a history and it's not a good one, but lots is a little more things. But it's interesting that the band has seemingly broke up, and what's going on with them. I selfishly, I would love to see what Boba Fett's doing at this period of time. I want that Tales of the Bounty Hunters thing. Maybe we'll get that next year, since we seem to be on a streak with these Tales shows. But
it does kind of kill me that like they do Tales of the Underworld and they do all of these characters who are connected to Boba Fett in some way, but they don't do Boba Fett. And I'm like, we know there is a Boba Fett story that desperately needs to be told in this era, that was planned to be done in this animation style, that they have not done yet. This young Boba Fett and Cad Bane storyline that was meant to be in the late season of the Clone Wars, which, by the way, at the animation panel at Celebration, the same one that they screened episode 1 of Tales of the Underworld at, they showed an unfinished clip from that.
That's right.
Never made arc of Boba.
Yeah, they showed on this live stream. I saw that.
Yeah, a Boba in a fight with Anakin. That story it desperately needs to be told. And if you're wondering why I'm so passionate about this, just watch the last episode of the Book of Boba Fett again and go, what the hell is this relationship that they're talking about between these two characters in the climax? Why wasn't this part of the show? And if it's not going to be part of the show, why isn't it its own show?
And I know that's maybe part of the reason why Boba Fett wasn't the first character you do a Tales of show about, is because by the way, we already had a live action TV series devoted to Boba Fett.
I guess.
So maybe he's not on the first things, but they also stole 2.5 episodes of his show for another character. So I think they owe us some Boba Fett content, guys. I think. But that's helpful. But back to this, it's truly great to have both of them back. And I hope we see the rest of the gang at some point make their way in there. Because I think because you got a good old Dengar. Get Simon Pegg back. He's not too busy these days. Get him to do Dengar again.
Yeah, of course.
What I would love for some of these characters, and I think even these new characters, is that I really can see them showing up in Maul. I think this sort of underground, underworld, scum and villainy going through, what Maul is getting up to. They can absolutely come across these sorts of characters. And if you think about it, Maul and Ventress are very similar. So I think that would be two characters to really, I would love to see more on the screen of their interactions.
Looks like you're half the man you used to be, Maul.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, I was gonna say Maul's resurrection was very much tied to Ventress, and so there is a natural link between these two
from
characters.
The same planet.
From the same planet. Yeah,
crazy.
So there's something there if they want to follow up on that. Now, in the third episode, we see Ventress and Lyco travel to a planet, and they come across an old separatist general who's still kind of fighting a battle of his own against the indigenous species of the planet that he's landed on. And in the end, Ventress kind of gets him to see that at some point, you got to stop fighting the old war. At some point, people have to choose to stop fighting. Hannah, what did you think of this third episode and this interesting dynamic between these two former separatist commanders?
I found this this episode felt the most like this is straight out of Filoni's mind of like how he reflects upon like his time with working with Clone Wars. It was so connected. It felt very Bad Batch in a sense, kind of asking that moral question of the either side of the war, which I always find interesting. With Clone Wars being so, I think, big in my mind when I think of Star Wars. So I loved it, and did this in a very poetic way. It was Joel before that said these are tales of like poems or something.
Yeah, they're like
something really
poems.
eloquent, tone poems. Yeah, that's very much this energy of this sort of larger message coming through this episode specifically, and the old mate who was like, I'll give him my water. And then, having to be like, no, let's share. Beautiful little message. I think it was cool. I liked it. I liked it a lot.
Yeah. Joel in the chat says the Tales of series I think of as tone poems. They are more about vibes and good animation than meaty storytelling, which I think is fair. Like they give you a feeling of what you're meant to see. And the sort of the showdown between Ventress and this guy, like, the thing about the Clone Wars, right, is that there's one winner, and it's Palpatine, and everybody else loses. And what they need to realize, and Bad Batch went into this a lot, is that the Separatists and the Republic, the people who oppose Palpatine, they have more in common than they disagree on, but they have a hard time seeing past that because they spent so long fighting each other. We got little bits of this in Bad Batch with like Chuchi and Senator Singh, although those are two pretty smart people who were able to see past it pretty quickly. But here we get a different version of that. Of this guy, he cannot imagine not fighting, and Ventress, really showing some wisdom here. It kind of says to him like, the only way this ends is if people choose to stop fighting. That's the only way this ends. Either we kill each other and there's nobody left, or we choose to stop fighting. And it was difficult for him to realize this because he spent his whole life fighting. But that's kind of the key of it. Again, it's like what Joel said, kind of a tone poem. Kind of, it's about the vibe, about the feeling, about the theme, rather than who is this guy and what's his connection to Dooku and yada 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 yada. Ben, what did you think? What did you think of all this?
No, I think it's a question we've always had over the years of like, what happened to the Separatists, going all the way back to pre-Rogue One, of just like, those small breadcrumbs of Cassian's original backstory of like, what if he's a separatist? What if Cassian fought with a separatist? All this kind of stuff, and that didn't quite turn out to be true. There's still a lot of there's a lot of unanswered questions there, and I think we've got a lot of interesting stories over the years. We got a lot of it in Bad Batch. I think Senator Singh was a very interesting, very fascinating character to show a spotlight on in Bad Batch, and getting a lot of separatist people in that show. And just getting the whole idea, like what this other side that was manipulated, that we as the audience were told, these are the bad guys, the evil Count Dooku. Like, yeah, Count Dooku is evil, but you go back to that very great episode of Clone Wars, Heroes on Both Sides, and just like Ahsoka's discovery of, yeah, the people up top are evil, but what about all the other people that are just fighting for what they believe in and are not actually mustache twirling villains? They're just people and just trying to do the right thing. And I like this guy's things that, and he still believes in the cause. He still believes in the Confederacy. And having someone like Ventress come in and I think she takes it not as a compliment. It was like, oh, you were the right hand Dooku. Like, she hates Dooku. He tried to kill her. Like, there's a lot of water under that bridge. But her having the wisdom and the really groundedness to go, okay, you were both sides were wrong here. Both sides. We were all manipulated into this. And yeah, it's a very, yes. Is it, not telegraphed? Of course not. Like, it's pretty well in there. Doesn't come out of left field, but I think that ending is pretty powerful. I literally just watched that before we came on here, and I'm just like, yeah, it's a great little moment, and I think it's a great thing. And it's a great lesson. And if you think, oh, this is a great lesson for kids, nope. I think a lot of adults could learn could learn this lesson too these days. So there you go.
So we've talked about all of the characters kind of around Ventress. We haven't really touched on Ventress herself and how this series depicts her in this time frame. So Hannah, I'll throw it to you. What did you think of seeing Ventress in this post Order 66, post Dark Disciple world? What was your takeaway from what she is like now and where she's at in her journey now?
I see Ventress as, I think I mentioned before, this very sympathetic gray character now. And I think Star Wars in the recent years have really loved those sorts of characters. And I thought I would get sick of it, but I don't think I am yet. And in these in retrospect of these 3 episodes, I make so much likeness to her character, to who Kenobi sort of became and was in the Kenobi show. Someone that was heavy, someone that they had a heavy mind and a heavy heart, and really processing the war that they just experienced, not just the conflict of it, but also just where their place was, what they were involved in, and what their purpose was. I think it's very similar to Kenobi's sort of quandary with himself of, guilt, blame. I don't think Ventress is fully, had that character arc of she's in the light and she wants to save the day. I just think she has this sort of stone-turned process of realizing, well, all this that I poured into of Dooku, the Separatists, the war, gave me nothing. So what do I have?
Yeah,
I think that's the question she's asking. And I think that's why it was so important we see her character with Lyko, because you sort of see her go, should I do something meaningful here? And you still have that bitterness I think she holds of, I don't want a Padawan. You annoy me. You're just a kid. She's very dismissive of him. And it's, I love that. She's such a sassy character. Very cold. But it's weird. She's sort of cold in a warm way. She's kind of that character that's she is very dismissive, but you kind of want to care. I felt like I would be like her being like, no, you love it, Ventress. Come on. She just seems like she's that way. So I think sort of the kind of end of the last episode where she knows that Lyko, go off on this journey. This is the best thing for you. That's her realizing that she can do good in the galaxy still. And, it's a sweet little ending that Lyko comes back and goes, no, I feel like my purpose is with you. And her, again, reluctantly, but accepting that, I think is a story that is so sweet to see her sort of processing that she can still be good. But again, I don't think she's this fully hopeful character, but it's more of this lesson of you're never too far gone, which is very key to Star Wars storytelling. But yeah, again, as I'm saying this, I'm like, it did really feel like a back to a pilot, didn't it? Like this whole well, we'll do adventures together.
Oh yeah,
now.
Really, yeah.
Yeah, big time. But yeah, beautiful character.
Ben, your thoughts on Ventress in this at this point in her life?
Yeah, no, I've often said that Ventress is quite honestly the best character that came out of Clone Wars, was the most developed character. someone who really had a strong character arc in a show that was mostly led by people that had already had their character arcs. Obi-Wan, Anakin, Dooku. These were characters that are kind of locked into things. They still did a lot with those characters, but I think the focus was on Ahsoka, and I think Ahsoka had an incredible arc. But still, there was like, you were never going to see Ahsoka turn to the dark side. I guess it did technically happen.
I was going to say, we did see that.
It did happen once, but she came back
that.
from. But with Ventress, it was just like this things, and this character that started out very cookie cutter evil and could have stayed that way. I think it's very interesting the left turn they take with that character in season 3 to go be like, no, she's going to go off on this journey, and starts with her just getting revenge on Dooku, and how that intertwines with the Savage Opress story and obviously the Maul story, and then going off to, no, she's a bounty hunter. No, she's not. No, she's working with Ahsoka. She's having these interesting things. This flirtatious thing that she has with Obi-Wan is now kind of paying off because they're kind of friends now. And they get to fight Maul and Savage with each other. All this stuff leads up to she's this more gray character that we see in Bad Batch and now here, where you really don't know where she is. But I think this is the kind of the biggest drop of evidence of she is not dark side anymore. I think Joel said it, like, she is, the light is in her. And I think she is a good, giving, compassionate person. Someone who's filled with anger and hate and rage couldn't do the stuff that Ventress did in these episodes. I think you see a little bit of the sassiness in Bad Batch. I think it's great seeing her bouncing off of Omega, but this is way more in the direction of she is not a Jedi, but she's what a Jedi is supposed to be, which is kind of more the Ahsoka route of, well, I don't subscribe to those. I'm not in your cult, but I am subscribing to your belief system in a way.
Interesting. Yeah. It's a redemption story, but it's not the sort of fairy tale redemption story that I think we imagine. She doesn't become a Jedi. She doesn't run around with her lightsaber saying, "Here we are to save the day," like awesome heroes. Like, she's not that. She is on a redemption journey. She left Dooku behind. She has nowhere else to turn. And she knows that she's caused a lot of harm, and I think she doesn't want to cause any more harm. But she doesn't necessarily want to, or feel the need, at least at the beginning of the story, to go out of her way to help people. Like she said, she just wants quiet. She wants something where she can, just kind of do her thing, use the skills she has, but not in a way that's really doing a whole lot of harm, where she can just sort of be left alone once she's done her job for the day. And of course, she gets drawn into this story. And because of the experiences she's had, because of all the harm she's had, but also because of what she did briefly experience on Dathomir, where she felt that kinship with the other Night Sisters, and she understood how powerful that could be. When she comes across Lyko, even though she thinks she would rather get rid of him, she kind of realizes, like, oh, I can help. I should help this kid. I should help him. I can help him. Let me try to help him. And we see that carry through all 3 of these episodes. And honestly, it's there in the Bad Batch episode with Omega too. So like it's all there.
And Lyko, I think brings out, I think he kind of fills that, we always go back to that, mythological, thinking of, like, the idea of, Jar Jar and Yoda and these important characters that the hero overlooks. So, though they're not important, I'm just going to look past them, going to keep doing what I'm doing. And maybe Lyko isn't important as he's going to save the galaxy, or Ventress is going to save the galaxy, but I think Lyko brings out the best in Ventress. He brings out the good in her. And, in a Han Solo-ish way, saying all these things of, I don't care. Maybe I'll kill you if you annoy me, stuff like that. It's all a front to no, she actually is a compassionate person with feelings, and she actually does want the best for this kid. And he sees through that, and and they are better for it.
All right. There we go. I think we've covered just about everything from the Asajj Ventress portion of Tales of the Underworld. Any final thoughts on this, or shall we move on?
Well,
to questions?
I'm fully prepared to watch to talk about the Cad Bane show because I watched them. Okay, I actually did the work. I did the work.
All right, Ben. All right. All right. Let's move on. Let's move into our favorite segment, Ask the SWU. This is where we answer the questions submitted by our listeners via Super Chat and in our Discord. And for the folks who are listening live tonight, if you've got questions, throw them into the chat. We'll see if we can get to some of them as well. But we've got a massive backlog of questions from the last several weeks. So let's dive into it from the Discord. So we'll start with this one from Blackthorn. It says, not a question, but just a few old school observations. First, I love that they continue to embrace BBY. Great way to honor the legendary expanded universe. Second, I audibly gasped when episode 2 of Andor ended with the reveal that the jungle planet was Yavin 4. Such a great connection and potential impactful storylines. We talked about the BBY thing last week. We don't need to go into that again. I will say, Hannah and I weren't on for the first couple of Andor discussions. Right. That was a big reveal for me. Like when he flies away in the TIE fighter and you realize it's on Yavin. I think I had like a sort of reaction to seeing that. I thought that
it comes out of left field. Cool. Like it's a great reveal.
Yeah, and I like that, the Yavin base, like it started off as just kind of like a staging ground, a meeting place for these kind of handoffs to happen, and it then grew into it. It's a nice, I didn't think I needed, kind of the backstory of the Yavin base, but I like that they incorporated it in a way that wasn't hitting you over the head with, hey, this is important. It's like, no, we're seeing the story play out. And then there's an added layer to it afterwards with the reveal.
But jumping off that, like one of my biggest disappointments with the finale of Andor was going through that and showing all the different characters where they are. Like they could have easily thrown in a one shot of just the survivors of that group still off in the jungle and Yavin yelling at each other and fighting each other. I think that would have been a great little thing that they could have done, or maybe they're just dead by then. Maybe we'll just show their skeletons.
Yeah, there should be a plaque somewhere for the Mina Rao or what? No, what are they called? The
the Maya Pei Brigade.
Maya Pei Brigade. There should just be like a plaque somewhere, like this spot is where these jerks got into a fight one time and nearly spoiled the whole thing. Yeah,
they died because of their stupidity.
All right, good observations, Blackthorn. Even though BBY is a ridiculous way to count the years.
It works perfectly.
It's ridiculous.
It works perfectly. It is so helpful.
Don't get into this. Please, God, don't do this again.
Yeah, a media. You need a timeline. You need a point of event timeline.
But why? It
don't
doesn't
get it started. So don't do it.
Okay. I get why we do it out of universe. Because it's Star Wars. It's before the original movie, after the original movie. I get that. That makes sense to me. I don't get why it's in universe. Why is it in yours? Why is it not from the actual? Why are we not restarting the counting from the actual fall of the Empire in Return of the Jedi? Why is that not the beginning? Why is it from this random battle? Yes, an important one, but why is that the in-universe thing? I don't know.
Because that's the one the galaxy knows.
Well, the characters in Star Wars are not watching Andor. It's us that's watching Andor.
Yes, but okay, so then that opens up a separate issue of do the people who aren't us know what BBY means? And the answer to that is no, because they don't even say BBY before
it's not
Battle
for
of
us. It's not before a New Hope movie. It's for the galaxy.
But then why is it there? And why is it there for us?
That was the most involved one. Like, everyone in the galaxy just found out they were doing a second Death Star. They didn't know. It wasn't this widespread thing. It was just like, they got another one. They were building another one. Whoa. But the Battle of Yavin was like this widespread thing that they knew was going to happen.
But it's not more important than the death of the Emperor. Wouldn't that be your in-universe?
It was not more important than the bloody Gungans getting poisoned.
Just let me know
by
when you're
gas.
done.
There's 1,000 different events, but the Battle of Yavin is the most like influential.
We're gonna do before the Blue Shadow virus. BBSB.
Exactly. So it's like exactly. So it's like that would be stupid. That would be ridiculous. Battle of Yavin is a key event in the history of the galaxy.
If you were plotting the where you were restarting your years, you wouldn't pick an important battle. You would pick the end of the war.
What what do you want it to be? Like, what event do you think is big enough for Tom Jones to bloody
I don't think we should have an in-universe year
Okay.
thing. I think we can have an out-of-universe
Gun
one.
to head, if you had to choose an event, what event would it be?
The death of the Emperor. Return
Death
of the Jedi.
Emperor.
Yeah.
I think it would be the start of the Galactic Senate. What did I say? No, that's not what I meant.
Start of the
Imperial
Galactic Senate. Start of the
Empire.
Start of the
Empire Day.
Revenge of the Sith. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, but
I think that should be it.
So, but this is the
I think
point.
it should
This
be
is my
like
point.
before Galactic Empire and after Galactic Empire.
So it doesn't. Yes. So it doesn't. We're agreeing here. It doesn't make sense in universe. It makes sense out of universe, except you have to explain what the Battle of Yavin is, and you have to explain what BBY means.
Not for the out universe. It's not.
Yes, it
for
is.
that.
Why do you have it? Why do you put it at the beginning of the
Star
episode?
Wars fans would know what the hell the Battle of Yavin is. It's not being like, hey, Brian at the corner shop, did you know in 12 BBY?
But that's who needs it, is Brian at the corner shop. That's who needs it, is Brian at the corner shop. Because we're the ones
being like,
we're
what
the ones
book is this a part of? Oh, it's
we're the
Black
ones
Swan. I hope you're happy.
We're the ones who are going to go to StarWars.com and just be like, when is this? Oh, 5 years before the Battle of Yavin. Got it. No,
and you know
if
what?
you're going to put it in the show,
you know what that means.
If you're going to put it in the show, then you should say 5 years before A New Hope. You should, yes.
That's like,
you're both right. Everybody wins. Everybody wins. You're both right.
No, what do you mean? What do you mean it's insane?
That's like watching Lord of the Rings.
Sure.
And it's like, oh, this is what started 1,000 years before like the events here. This is how the ring got lost or whatever. And being like, we don't know that. What is that? We don't know. It's like, no, well, you're watching the thing, so you're gonna know.
What would it say? What would it say? What would the Lord of the Rings equivalent of BBY
I don't know the date. It was
before
1,000
before Bilbo found the friggin' ring.
Before Bilbo Baggins' party, birthday party, and after
okay.
Bilbo Baggins' birthday party.
Okay. So if you're watching the friggin' Amazon show, the one that people like, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
At the beginning of that, does it say anything about where it's set in relation to the movies or the novels?
I don't think it visually has it on the screen. It might be verbally said in dialogue of time.
Yeah.
It might be verbal.
But it would say it in a way that's like 15,000 years before Frodo went on his quest with the blah blah.
Okay, so your issue is that it's in text and not audible.
No,
that's your issue.
My issue is that it says BBY, which doesn't mean anything if you don't already know what it means. If it said 5 years before Luke Skywalker blew up the Death Star, then I'd be like, okay, that makes sense. that everybody
Just
can understand
use
that.
a slither of understanding of what Battle of Yavin is, and you can understand that within a second.
Okay, so if I'm Brian at the corner shop, and I'm like, oh, I want to check out this new Star Wars thing. Where is it set in relation to the movies? I'm like, and then it starts with 5 BBY. I might know 5 years before the destruction of the Death Star. That might make sense to me. 5 years before Star Wars. That might make sense to me. But I don't know what Yavin is. Yavin is never said in Star Wars until this fucking show.
Okay,
it's in Rebels maybe, but it's not in A New Hope. So the Battle of Yavin doesn't mean anything if you're not us.
Okay.
If you're not us,
so
it
we're
doesn't mean anything.
going
So
off.
it needs to be before the destruction of the Death Star. Hell, before the completion of the Death Star would make sense.
So we're going off. Brian at the corner shop doesn't know anything about pop culture. Okay, he doesn't know anything. That's like getting mad or frustrated or whatever. That you go, Rings of Power is 2,000 years before Bilbo's birthday, and getting mad at him that he doesn't know what Bilbo's birthday is.
No. Saying Rings of Power is 2,000 years before Bilbo's whatever birthday makes sense because that's something that we know what it means. BBY is an acronym for something that isn't obvious to casual fans.
Very obvious.
No, it's
very
not.
but exactly my point. Bilbo's birthday isn't obvious to a casual fan.
That's the beginning of the story. That's the beginning of, if you've watched Lord of the Rings. That's the beginning.
Is that the beginning of the story? You're explaining the same thing as the Battle of Yavin.
I wish Mommy and Daddy would stop fighting.
Oh, bro, I need a beer, man.
Mine's empty.
Next celebration. Yeah, next celebration, Dom. We'll do this live.
Yeah, really.
Oh, bro.
So that's all the time we've got, guys.
Anyway, thanks so much for your beautiful question.
Thanks for tuning
bringing
in.
us all together. Oh my god, so good.
All right.
So good.
Let's see if we can get through the next question without good conflicting rants. This one comes from Dr. Hugh 17. Dr. Hugh writes, 2 questions for tonight. Don't mind if I do. First question: what was your biggest takeaway from Andor season 1? For me, it was about what it means to be a rebel and part of a rebellion, and seeing how these practices would continue well into the sequel era with the Resistance. 2, out of all the crazy situations we've seen in season 2 thus far, which ones are you willing to put up with? Part of me would prefer to fight the Empire on the farms of Mina Rao, although I wouldn't say no to drunkenly dancing at a ceremonial disco on Chandrila, provided that they can serve a good Chandrilan champagne under a chandelier. Wordplay. I like it. Okay. Part 1. What was your biggest takeaway from season 1 of Andor?
Season 1.
Ooh.
Be patient. That's my lesson.
Yeah, be patient. Greatness comes to those who wait. Something like that. I think season 2 is more of a patience pays off thing, because I think season 2 is paced in a way that it's not like season 1. Really, you wait 3 episodes and you've got something. I think there's a big literal explosion at the end of each of those arcs of something's happening, versus season 2 is like, okay, you have, like the biggest, like it's more emotional, it's less stakes. Even though like you get to the second arc, which is like equivalent to that is the Aldani arc in season 1. And that is like, it's Clea turning a key and them like unloading a bunch of boxes in the middle of the street. It doesn't feel as big as stakes, but it's just as intense, I think. But I think season 1 just like it's great. That's my takeaway. It's freaking great.
Yeah, I think with season 1, it's Nemec's manifesto. That's the biggest takeaway, because that sort of sums up what the whole point of all of this is. It's that each individual act may feel small and irrelevant in and of itself, but it all builds to something larger. And then we see that be built up to larger and larger through season 2, through Rogue One, and yes, through the Battle of Yavin, which I will say, yes, people have correctly pointed out in the chat that it is said in Star Wars. I was wrong. It was said in A New Hope. The characters state we are approaching the planet Yavin. Now, it is said in a blink and you miss it moment. It is not, it's not a name that's said over and over again, like Tatooine or Alderaan or anything like that. Like, it's not one of the main planets. You could say, if you don't, instead of saying BBY, you could say 5 years before the destruction of Alderaan. I think that makes more sense than BBY. I just I hate the acronym. Can I say I hate the acronym? That's my biggest problem with it.
Why? Yeah. Like as in you would like a different acronym, like ADL or something?
No. Both of you shut up. Both of you shut up.
Is it the letters that you don't like? Do you not like the letters B and Y?
I have a big problem with the letters B and Y. No, I haven't. Oh, we've already gone over this. We can't go back into this. But yes, I was wrong on that detail, but I am right overall, and I will stand by that. Question 2. Of the crazy situations in season 2, what would you be most willing to put up with? Like, where would you, like, nowhere in season 2 is good necessarily.
I mean, like,
where would you most like to
okay,
be?
the party is good, but also my childhood friend is getting whacked off screen. Like, you know, there's no good scenarios here. So I don't know. Like, I don't know, the best one I can handle. I don't know. Probably, yes. Getting drunk at a party, trying to ignore my problems is probably the easiest thing.
Yeah. Hannah?
Yeah, I've rewatched that scene so many times at this point. I cannot disagree. I think that's like the perfect takeaway. It's like, yep, just do that. That's best way to cheaper than therapy, probably. Amazing. Not recommended by an actual therapist. Don't take my advice.
This episode brought to you by
better help.
Yeah, Christ. So you know you listen to too many podcasts.
Right.
The go-to podcast ads. I mean, that's everything else is like kind of awful and feels like you're gonna die. That it's awful, but you're gonna wake up the next morning. Your head might hurt, but you're not gonna be dead. All the other points in season 2, you know, doesn't necessarily, you know, not a lot of good things.
Yeah, not like maybe a takeaway, but I would love to be a fly on the wall in the Senate chamber as Mon Mothma did that speech, and just kind of to watch everything unfold the way it did. I think that would have been cool. I think that would have been quite something. And just after, like, she leaves immediately, so she's like, oh, this person that did this insanely big call out to Emperor Palpatine is just gone now. What do we all do? Like, that's so interesting. I love that.
Yeah, a lot of soul searching after that. The other thing, the other party in season 2, where they're at Davos's like his gallery of stuff, and Krennic is there, and Luthen is there, and Clea is there with Lonnie, and she's pulling the listening device out of the other thing. That, like, just the tension of Mon and Krennic having their back and forth about philosophy and politics, that'd be pretty cool. That'd be pretty cool. Like, that scene is underratedly good.
It's chilling in a way. It's so good.
Really, really good. Yeah. It's a little overshadowed by blowing up Dr. Gorst a few minutes later.
Yeah, sure.
But a really, really great moment. All right. Good questions, Dr. Q. And did not spur any arguments. Well done. Well done. Joel Davis, he of Ion Cannon, asks, maybe a question for the end of the show, meaning Andor, which it is. Show's over now. But do you think Lucasfilm will ever go for another quote unquote prestige project after Andor is done? Yeah, I mean, that's been thing about Andor is it went for it. It tried to be a grown-up show, quote unquote. The Mandalorian tries to capture a lot of the feelings of Star Wars, the pulpiness, the serial, the sort of 1930s serials aspect to it that the movies have, and we love it for it. Whereas Andor tried to say, hey, what if we did, one of these, great TV shows just set in the Star Wars galaxy, something that could win Emmys, and not just technical ones. Is this something that Lucasfilm will want to do again, or now that they're moving away from TV shows, or at least they're going to do a lot less, maybe they're going to feel more like doing kind of the Skeleton Crew, Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan Kenobi kind of thing? What do we think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's a huge question. Obviously, huge question of what's next, because we do literally know what's next. Like Ahsoka season 2 is in production, but if a few years ago I might have predicted, we'd be on season 7 of Mandalorian. Like, well, they'll just keep pumping that out because it's big, it's a big show, it's popular, everyone loves it. Just keep doing that, and we'll do spin-offs of that, whatever else. We'll do the Mandoverse. It'll just be huge. But now that seems to be contracting, and there doesn't seem to be a clear vision of like what is the TV landscape looks like. It looks like, unfortunately, the streaming bubble has burst, and we're kind of in this weird era of, after we got all these amazing, live action TV shows that look like movies, and then they realized, oh crap, they were too expensive. We couldn't sustain this. So let's go back. And just the idea of, well, we wanted 5 seasons of Andor. We were lucky to get 2 seasons. Like, understanding the industry of where we were at, like right now, and have been in the past few years, Andor is a miracle. It's a gem of a thing that we are blessed to have gotten. But, I can't help it that Lucasfilm wouldn't come out of this going like, man, we really like this whole like critics and fans loving something universally. Like, this feels really good. And as a fan, it feels really good. So I want them to do more of that. But, Andor, very expensive show. How do they remedy this? And maybe they can just, hire not Tony Gilroy, but someone like Tony Gilroy to come in with a slightly smaller budget to come in and do something different, or just, get someone to work with Dave Filoni or whatever else. And, despite the poo-pooing of the Mandoverse, like, those shows are still very, very popular. There's a reason Mando got 3 seasons. Ahsoka's getting a 2nd season. And I would love to see Boba Fett and Skeleton Crew get season 2s. Like, that's still something that I would really love. But I don't know. I really don't know where it goes. That's the ultimate answer to the question is, I don't know. I wish I did.
Hannah, what do you think?
What's the question again?
Do you think Lucasfilm will try to make another prestige show after Andor is done?
Yeah. I think they're definitely going to have to look at it. And I've definitely had the sense with Lucasfilm in the past, real recent time, now that apart from Ahsoka season 2 being renewed for another season, for this season 2, like everything that they had set out to do for this kind of mid-term period of the shows is pretty much completed now. So now that I feel like they are in this point of reflection, and there's a lot of shifting. I think, they want to go back to those movies. We've had a recent surge in once a week having Kathleen Kennedy's going, like, even more now. And I do think there's some reality to it. I do think she's definitely, like, I think, we analyzed that article that she came out saying, like, no, I'll die. Oh, bye, Ben. I'll die making movies. But I do think that she's considering her tenure at Lucasfilm and moving on, maybe not from the not being the president, maybe just the executive producer on things. I think there's just a lot of reflection and movement at Lucasfilm right now. So I think within that there is going to be a big look into the critic, like what Ben said, like the critical acclaim and the fan acclaim of this season 2, of the characters, of the character interest. I feel like they really, really hit a sweet spot for this season 2. And I kind of compare it to the previous granted, this was a first season of it, and season 2s are always better because it's like we know the characters, we're getting into it more. But look at their reaction to the Acolyte. Again, regardless of what we personally think of it, like they saw the backlash, they realized that we can't navigate our way through this. We're not going to continue this story. We're not going to continue this show. They made that decision. That's, and how that came out is, whatever. But they're not doing anything with it. And I think that's really interesting that they reflected in it and things like that in that way. So I think they'll do the exact same for Andor, be a lot more positive, because I think it's got to be like, okay, how do we capture the essence that really brought in the critics and the fans like they did for Andor? I think that's going to be a big question. I don't think it will be to the point of like, oh, we got to use these exact characters, but I think they'll analyze, especially Tony Gilroy's approach to the storytelling. And just his approach to how they made this show. I mean, he's been quite vocal about being quite done for now, not in like an angry way, but just being like, I've had 10 years in the Star Wars universe. I'm happy. So I think Lucasfilm's going to be like, okay, who can capture this sort of essence?
Who else we got? Yeah. See, here's the thing about them like doing prestige stuff again, is I think they've tried. Right? Like, I think Acolyte was supposed to be that. I think in their minds, that's what they were doing with that show. You look at that cast, you look at Leslie Headland and what she had done prior to Star Wars. And honestly, I think Obi-Wan Kenobi was supposed to be that too for them. Like, I think that's in their minds when they were making those shows, they were making these kind of event series that were going to be more like Andor than anything else. Ben is sideways.
Why are you on the side, Ben?
And so I think that their goal, I think, is to make more shows that are like this. Now that they're going back to movies, now that I think Starfighter will kind of take the place of the Mandalorian shows, of Skeleton Crew, of things like that, where it'll be kind of that more fun Star Wars, classic Star Wars adventure, as opposed to being, this sort of high class drama set within the Star Wars universe. So I think that's, with that shift happening, the question is then what do you do with TV? And I think the thing you do with TV is you take advantage of the medium like Tony Gilroy did, and you do this sort of big, grand, epic story that, maybe is intended for a slightly older audience, intended for more, you're not being restricted by what Star Wars was in the past. You're not restricting yourself to only doing something that feels like what George would have done. And in doing so, you actually make something that feels more like what George would have done, because George wouldn't have limited himself to what he did before. So I think that's where we're at with the shows. I think that is the goal going forward. And Andor just happened to be the first show that hit on actually, fulfilling the brief of being a prestige show.
Yeah,
it's a good question though. We'll see where we wind up with that in the future. Gills Turd 10 asks, in the form of a Bernie Sanders meme, which we should have prepared to show on the screen, but it says, again, asking for this after seeing Tales of the Underworld. It's the Bernie meme, saying, I am once again for asking for a future Ventress and Vader duel to be the true rematch of the century. Vader versus Ventress.
My first
Anakin and Ventress had some showdowns, I suppose. So you could,
yeah, but nothing more poignant than any of the other duels that happened throughout the Clone Wars. If anything, I would argue maybe a showdown between Ventress and Ahsoka, but they're not really enemies at this point.
No.
But they had that really cool fight You know what? I just realized it's not even Ventress, it's Barris, who I'm thinking about right now.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Solar lightsabers.
Yeah, that's right. Well, they fooled me. Yeah, interesting. Ventress and Vader. That's. I mean, I don't think that wouldn't be cool, but I don't think it would be this like very like these two again. I don't know.
Yeah.
I
feel
don't know
like
that energy.
Ventress. I
Ben
cannot
is
focus
having
right now.
audio listeners. Ben is having a great deal with his orientation of his camera right now.
Yeah.
He's sideways most of the time. He's upside down. He's having a great deal over there. But yeah.
Yeah, he was upside down for a minute there, which I don't think that's ever happened on the podcast. He's been horizontal several times. It's truly
crazy.
Yeah, it's really going on. Yeah, I think honestly, Hannah, you said it earlier, like Ventress and Maul kind of feels like that's more of a setup for a real kind of showdown. Because the Vader showdowns, it'd be Ahsoka, it'd be Obi-Wan. Those are kind of the like that's where
at this point
his story, that's where his story goes. And we've seen them. We saw Ahsoka in Rebels, and we saw Obi-Wan in the Kenobi series. So now if we're looking for where Ventress could have a big showdown, I feel like Maul, like in the battle of for the soul of Dathomir kind of thing. Night sister, night brother, like are they, is it somebody who's trying to help the galaxy or somebody who's trying to profit from it? Like I think there's some potential there if you want to do a showdown. But honestly, a Vader Ventress showdown, I don't know. I have no doubt that like Filoni and Brad Rao and Jen Corbett, Matt Michnovetz, all of them, I have no doubt that they could make it interesting and make it cool. But off the top of my head, it just doesn't seem all that interesting because there's no way that Ventress can really do anything with Vader. And honestly, Ventress in the Clone Wars, her more impactful dynamic and relationship was with Obi-Wan than with Anakin. Like Anakin was just kind of there. Obi-Wan was the one that she was flirting with and had all this banter with.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah. Ben, you're muted.
Ben,
we can't hear you.
Ben, you're muted. Oh, geez, he was so into it too.
He was going to make a really great point. Nope, can't hear you, buddy.
Still can't hear you, champ.
Cannot hear you.
Oh no, he's evil laughing. Oh,
yeah.
Geez. Okay, Palpatine.
Somehow Ben Hart returned.
That's so random.
But he didn't.
He's now vertical and no sound. This is going swimmingly for Ben right now.
Ben is just not having it.
Not
all right, we'll come back to Ben once he's figured it out. I'm sure he'll blurt out in the middle of a sentence.
Yeah, 100%.
Figured it out.
So good.
All right, I'm trying to make sure before I start repeating questions from folks, because lots of folks submitted multiple questions. I want to make sure I get to at least get to everybody's question once. So how about we go to J Augustine 92? J Augustine 92 says, do you think we could get a Clone Wars like animated series during the original trilogy, not necessarily following one set of characters, but expansive? A lot would follow the big three, like the Clone Wars followed Anakin, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, but tons of other stories were told. So, we'd get Luke, Han, and Leia. They'd probably be the main characters, but there would be lots of sort of side episodes that would explore Wedge or Jansen or the bounty hunters we ran into on Ord Mantell or things like that. I think that, that'd be fun. The comics kind of already did that. But as we've seen, they don't necessarily
comics.
They don't have to
mean anything.
They don't feel they have to be restricted by what's been done in the comics. And honestly, post Andor, there's a lot of characters out there that just didn't exist when the comics were telling the sort of the main storylines between episodes 4, 5, and 6. So, you don't know. There's no stories with Vel. There's no stories with Clea. There's no stories with Will. Like these characters that are a big part of Andor that survive and you would think would be part of post New Hope. In the ABY stories, you'd think they would be a part of that, but they're not because they didn't exist when those stories were being told. So maybe there's an opportunity there to do something that could continue the Andor storylines while also incorporating Luke, Han, and Leia and doing some stories that people have always wanted to see on screen.
Yeah. I've always been for that idea, and I think not only Clone Wars animation style, but also just the format of the storytelling, having such a variety of characters, really, really aided to the show, kind of just feeling fresh constantly. And I think that's what's needed in these sort of animated shows, like even in Bad Batch. I liked that everything was of the POV of our Bad Batch, but we got to see so many new characters that I think that really just constantly made it feel very vibrant and fresh. So I think storytelling around original trilogies definitely needed more, especially particularly after really. We do so much BBY, but we need some more ABY. So I'd love that. I would eat that up. That'd be awesome.
Speaking of BBY and ABY, this question from Darth Robin. Don't you think that what makes the most sense is if there's no 0 BBY, but there is a 0 ABY? In this model, oh God, 0 ABY starts the moment the Death Star is destroyed. That would make New Year's Day 1 BBY 1 year before the Battle of Yavin, and New Year's Day 1 ABY 1 year after the Battle of Yavin, and it lines up with Andor.
So they're saying that there is an ABY, a 0 ABY?
Yes. Yeah, so there's no 0 BBY, which is what Ben was arguing for last week. I cannot believe we are in week 2 of BBY talk.
This is actually really interesting.
And
this might foil my theory, though. That's actually a good point. Because my argument for why the story we got in Andor finale is it's within that 1 year span of BBY. And if for that to be functional, that means there is no ever 0 anything. It goes from 1 BBY into the year 1 of ABY. So that is a problem if there's a 0 ABY. Oh,
yes. So as I said last week, I think we just have to look at it as the Death Star, the Battle of Yavin, my favorite words on all of Star Wars. That is New Year's. So before New Year's is 2024, after New Year's is 2025. So before the Battle of Yavin is 1 BBY, and after the Battle of Yavin is 1 ABY. Of course, I oppose all of this in principle because I don't like BBY. But if this is what we're going with, I think that's how we got to do it. I think that's how it is. As obviously in the chat says, 0 is the day before. That's the day of the battle. So New Year's is the battle. Yeah. This is why people do the thing where they sync up the Death Star to blow up at New Year's. This is why. This is why.
Oh, yeah, so fair. Yeah,
that's how it works. That's what I'm sticking with, anyways. All right. One last question here. We'll do this. We'll end on this one from Ingenious. There's many more questions that we will get to in future weeks, but we'll end on this one from Ingenious. Now that we have gotten through Andor, what are you all most looking forward to next with projects like the Outlaws DLC featuring Hondo, Lego Rebuild the Galaxy Part 2, the Reign of the Empire book trilogy continuing, Vision Season 3, Maul Shadow Lord, The Ninth Jedi, Zero Company, Mangu, aka the Mandalorian and Grogu movie.
Mangu, yes. I want that name to catch on. I love it.
It sounds like a terrible spinoff of Pingu. And Ahsoka Season 2 filming. What are you most looking forward to that's either available or on the way? So of all those things that are up, what are you most looking forward to?
I think it's got to be Ahsoka Season 2 next year, and then it's probably Maul. The Maul show I am so excited for. I think that's going to be really epic. And underrated, and granted, I actually need I need to start this series. But what's the series called? The Empire Rising.
Reign of the Empire.
Reign of the Empire. Yeah. I want to start because that first book is out, obviously, but it's going to be this book trilogy. I think that's super cool. I'm keen to kind of get into that. I'm kind of considering maybe I should read it once all 3 come out, because then it's like I don't have to wait. I'll just read it all at once.
Yeah. I mean, I read them. Yeah, I read The Mask of Fear when it came out, and like getting to the end of it was like, wow, what an amazing book. It is really, really good. But there was this feeling of like, oh, I gotta wait until next year for the next one, and then I gotta wait another year for the year after the one after that.
So good, yeah.
It is a long way out. But Mask of Fear is excellent and well worth reading. I do recommend it. For me, I mean, like, it's hard for me not to say Mangu, just because I love a Star Wars movie like that. That to me is like really like something precious, and so whether or not this is the movie that I'm most excited for, just the fact that it's happening again has me really, really, really like excited and looking forward to it. So that is kind of, I think that takes top spot. And like, I could go through this entire list and just give you a reason why I'm excited for each of them. Like, genuinely, I think we're looking at a lot of really, really good stuff coming up. But one thing I am really, really excited about is this 9th Jedi series that they're doing. That's the Visions spinoff.
Oh yeah.
You know, Visions, like I love how varied it can be. I love how all over the place it can be. But there was something really, really, really special about that first 9th Jedi story. And watching it felt like, oh, this is where, if they wanted to do like a continuation, they wanted to do a sequel series, like a proper series of any of these shows, this feels like the one to do it with. And so being at Celebration on the last day, going to the Visions panel, first hearing that they are doing a sequel to 9th Jedi in volume 3, and then finding out that they're actually going to do the thing that I really wanted them to do, which is to do a whole series of this show. That had me really, really excited. So yeah, Mangu, I guess, is top, and maybe 9th Jedi would be second. But man, like, Maul Shadow Lord looks good. The Reign of the Empire books have been terrific. I'm excited for more Lego Star Wars. I'm excited for just more Visions in general. I'm excited for everybody else to play Zero Company and for people to tell me about it, because I'm not going to play it. But like it all looks really good. Like there's not a thing in there where I go, oh, ooh, that doesn't sound good to me, which sometimes there is, but all this sounds pretty good. Ben, we are on the question now that you're back. We're on the question from Ingenious asking, what are you most looking forward to next? There's things like the Outlaws DLC, Lego Rebuild the Galaxy 2, Reign of the Empire book trilogy continuing, Visions 3, Maul Shadow Lord, 9th Jedi series, Zero Company, Mangu, aka the Mandalorian Grogu, Ahsoka season 2, things like that. What are you, Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy, most excited for?
Man, at times like this, I wish Star Wars wasn't dead. I wish there wasn't just things, because I know there's a lot to get excited about, but I heard on the internet, people told me, and this is where you get reliable information on the internet. People told me Star Wars is dead, and it's never coming back. It's never not going to die again and again and again and again and again. And it's never coming back, and there's just nothing to get excited about at all. No, I think Star Wars in a movie theater, but I agree with you. I'll be different and say Ahsoka season 2 has special sense. You're not being different. That's what Hannah said. Okay, well, I wasn't here for that. Okay, so it's different to me. No, it's the fact that it's filming now, and the fact that it's one of my favorite series is up there. And screw it, I won't be different. 9th Jedi is freaking badass. That's like a dream project, and I'm hyped for that to the maximum.
Yeah, it's going to be incredible. All right, let's end things there. We got through at least one question, I think, from everybody. We will cover more of the questions because there are plenty more good ones that have been submitted in the weeks to come. We'll also return to Tales of the Underworld and talk about the Cad Bane portion of the story. And hey, we could like actually go through all of the Celebration announcements and give some reaction to it. I know that's like over a month old now, but hey,
that's usually something we do on this podcast, generally speaking, that we haven't done yet with the people that actually have been to Celebration. It's all us been really like, man, that looks really cool. Wish it could have been there.
I want to just keep teasing it at the end of every show, every week. I just want to be like, now next week we might be able to talk about Celebration. Let's just do that every week
for the rest of the time until we get to
until
Celebration Los Angeles. And then the
Boom.
week
And we'll be
after
like,
Celebration
hey,
LA,
how about that mall show?
we'll break down the news from Celebration Japan.
Yes. Oh, I love it. I love it.
Just keep rolling through it. And also, like, the Star Wars Underworld celebrated an anniversary while we were away. I say we, I mean, Hannah, you and I, Ben was here for it, or was he? And I feel like we should probably do like a proper anniversary episode at some point. But again, might just wait till next year for that at this point. Again, we're a month and a half removed from it. Yeah, we're celebrating the 15th anniversary in 2 months.
We may as well wait till for 25 more years, 20 years. Nah, just wait for that.
Yeah, who wants to celebrate a 50th anniversary anyways? All right, that's going to do it. That's where we'll leave things. We'll be back next week to talk more about whatever the hell it is we talked about on this show. And we hope you will join us then. Ben, thank you for fighting through your technical difficulties there on the set of Revenge of the Sith to join us for the final portion of the show once more. Do you have anything you want to plug?
No, not really. I will just say, you can't say I don't fight for you guys. I don't fight to be on this show sometimes. No, it was a joy and a pleasure, and I hope to be on next week. As it goes, you never know what life's going to throw at you, but I'm looking forward to discussing Cad Bane and that whole arc. Look, I rushed. I was prepared tonight. I could have done other things, but I rewatched the Cad Bane episodes. I made specific things, and some people didn't. I'm just kidding. No, I didn't. That's a lie. Okay, it's not a big deal. Okay, it's actually going to be a better discussion because we'll just rush through these things. I think Tales of the Underworld is something that I think it deserves its due. Okay, I think it's good that we've waited. And we're not the only podcast that's doing this. I saw somebody else was sort of saying, "Hey, are we doing Tales of the Underworld?" I'm like, okay, we're not the only people that just held off on this. It just gave up and be like, no, just wait till things cool off, and then we'll talk about this other cool thing that happened on Star Wars Day. So yeah, looking forward to that. And yeah, guys, Star Wars. It's alive, guys. I don't know if hot take. It's alive. It's actually pretty cool.
It is alive and still kicking. Hannah, thank you as always for being on. Anything you want to plug? And you're muted.
I'll never repeat that again now. Those were my secrets I shared.
Oh.
No, I nothing in particular to plug this week. Just keep living in Star Wars. It's never gonna die. But yeah, another great week, another great chat.
All right, and make sure you're following at the Raeside and checking out the Raeside YouTube channel. That's RAE-side for lots of great Star Wars content. I'll remind you to check out my Substack, DominicGJones.substack.com. I've got reviews up for every single arc of Andor. You can read all of those if you're still looking for some Andor discussion. And if you are a Toronto Maple Leafs fan and you want to commiserate about how the playoffs ended for us, go check out the most recent episode of Game Over Toronto. And if you're a fan of the other 31 NHL teams and you want to engage in some Schadenfreude, go check out the most recent episode of Game Over Toronto. It was a great discussion and a lot of fun to do, even though it was also very, very sad to do. But that is it. Like, as I said, we'll be back next week. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Leave a review on your favorite podcast app and follow us at the SWU for all the latest breaking Star Wars news as it happens on the various social medias. Join the Discord to keep the conversation going between shows. Link in the description. Lots of fun stuff going on over there. And enjoy the other programming on the Star Wars Underworld network, like the aforementioned Raeside, Ion Cannon, the Tractor Bee, and Tales from Beyond the Galaxy. That's it. We are out of here. Thank you, everybody, for listening. For Ben, for Hannah, for Chris, who wasn't here, my name is Dominic, and may the Force be with you. It's a wrap.
And cut!